Ahsoka is the character that showed me that girls can be cool. Especially, like, no, because, like, I was 8. And I was like, ew, girls are gross. And then I saw Ahsoka, and I was like, whoa, girls can be cool and do cool stuff just like guys.
Can I quote you on that? And then I saw Ahsoka and said, whoa.
You got to include the girls can be cool part. Otherwise, it sounds weird.
Ahsoka made me realize girls can be cool. It's like I turned from my misogynist ways because of the cool animated Jedi girl. And she came on screen and I said, wow.
Hello and welcome back to the Nerdiest podcast, the show where nerds talk about nerdy things. I'm your host, Nick Barrett, and as always, I'm joined by my fellow co-host, my ride or die, Mr. Jackson Glass, and today we are going to be talking about the movies and shows that have impacted our lives and impacted us. And if you guys have ever heard like the 3x3 trend, that's what we're doing. But we needed a better title that wasn't just our movies and shows 3x3. Could, make it a little more interesting. So that's our main topic for today. But before we jump into that, I want to know how Jackson's week has been. And, we'll get all that out of the way. So, Jackson, how have you been? How you doing? It's been a while.
Yo, let me tell you, it's been a week. And you know what? This week has been really good because I've worked a lot on the Nerdiest Podcast Instagram, which you can follow with the link in the description. The Nerdiest Podcast on Instagram, on YouTube, the Nerdiest Podcast for making original content there. Leave a 5-star review, follow on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening. Anyway, I've gotten to work on that a little bit. It's been a good week. I'm trying to tell as many people this as possible so that I can feel very normal about it. I failed stats this week, and so statistics and probability was not my class this year. That's okay. We float on.
It doesn't sound like an easy class though. It's not like you didn't try. Like you tried. It just didn't work out.
I made some sacrifices and I tried very hard for that class. And it just wasn't my time. Happens to the best of us. Last night was kind of crazy because we had like really bad weather, and so we were like in our tornado shelter for like 45 minutes, and then they're like, "All right, you're good." And then we walked out, and we were like, "What are we supposed to do when you leave a tornado shelter? You just kind of don't know what to do with yourself because you're wondering like." And they were saying like, oh, it's going to come back in like an hour. So it's kind of the thing where like, I can't do anything because I'm just waiting for the next thing to happen.
Right.
So it was also really funny because we ordered our dinner we were on campus. We ordered our dinner and then immediately had to go take shelter. So we didn't eat till like 8:30. And we were like, all right, it's coming back in like an hour. Let's hit Arby's. So we risked it all for Arby's, and I'm going to come back to that because I did have an interesting question regarding that. Movies I watched this week, last night, we watched Tag, if you've ever seen that.
Oh, I have seen that. It's actually kind of funny.
It's actually a really good movie. Rated R, not for the children, but it's really funny. I like that. We also watched A Knight's Tale, if you've ever seen that, with Heath Ledger and Paul Bettany.
No.
It's pretty good. The second half is a lot better than the first half. And honestly, I think, I don't want to speak for everyone. Personally, way too much of Paul Bettany's butt. Like, it was all over that movie. And I was just like, not ready for that. No one told me that he was like naked for most of the film. Not most, but like, so I was not ready for that. But pretty good movie. I recommend it. And then I also went to Target and I saw that they had Violent Night on Blu-ray, which was my favorite Christmas movie that came out last year. And so I picked that up and I watched it again. And It's a disgusting movie. Violent Night is horrible, and I love it. It's very fun. Oh, also, I saw John Wick 4 this week. Let
me
me
too.
tell you. Oh, yes, you also saw John Wick 4. I want to talk about that for a second, because John Wick 4 is one of the most impressive action movies I've seen in my life. I don't know if I'm just a John Wick stan, because I always have been.
I think you might just be a John Wick stan, buddy.
But, like, Keanu Reeves, I don't know if you sent it to me, but it was like, he has, like, 300 words in that movie or something like that. Like, his dialogue is, like, cut down.
Right.
So, he's still, like, just his physicality of the role and the way he fully commits to it, like, you can't top Keanu. And there's an interesting thing, like, Anthony Mackie was talking about this, where he was like, you used to go see a Schwarzenegger movie. You used to go see a Sylvester Stallone movie. And now it's more like you go see a Captain America movie. You go see for the character instead of the actor.
Right.
Where that's the difference with John Wick is you're going to see a Keanu Reeves movie.
Mm-hmm.
You are
100%.
He's like one of the last like classic action stars. And so I don't know. I'm curious to see where it goes from here. I'm a little nervous, but I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. John Wick 4 will probably be in my top 3 for movies this year.
That's fair. That's fair.
Here's what I was thinking about last night, and I asked a ton of people this and got some pretty good answers. If you were sucked into a tornado, but you got to play any song you wanted in its entirety while being sucked into said tornado, and you survive the length of the entire song, and then you die, what song are you playing?
That's so morbid. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's kind of a hard one though. Hold on. I gotta think.
I have some answers. I feel like Hamilton would be funny. Because I just picture me like going in the eye of the hurricane as I
was
like
gonna say
fly
you gotta go
away.
Hurricane.
I would do Hurricane by Bridget Medler.
Another hurricane.
Here
okay.
comes the sun, here comes the rain, standing in the eye of the hurricane. Also, one of my favorite answers was Sweden from Minecraft. Like just the most peaceful song ever as you're just getting sucked into this like horrible tornado.
That would be so good.
Someone said Pennies from Heaven. And I thought that was really funny to just be like, every time it rains, pennies from heaven. And
You got to think about though, if it's a long song, would it still be excruciatingly painful?
That's what I was wondering.
I would imagine being sucked around in a tornado is not a painless
fun.
experience.
That's the thing. A lot of people said Freebird, which is a good answer, but I'm like, dude, that song's like 12 minutes long.
It's the
like,
first place my mind went.
You're prolonging your death. Like, that's hilarious. But you're prolonging your death.
Personally, and this might sound really morbid.
Oh, no.
Goodbye from Inside would be my choice.
Yes.
That would be my top choice. I'm like, yep. If I'm going out, listen to
What
one of
a
my
good-
favorite songs.
That's iconic. What's the
Or probably a For King and Country song.
We were talking about like playing a cheesy like Christian radio hit. We're just like, in the eye of the storm, you remain in control. Yeah.
Hear me out. Jesus Take the Wheel, but it's the VeggieTales cover.
The VeggieTales cover.
I'd be okay with that.
Gosh. What a good option.
I can't wait to put that in the description and be like, on this episode of the podcast, Nick and Jackson talk about the movies that shaped them, and they also recap their week and their tornado death songs.
I thought about doing Blown Away by Carrie Underwood. I thought about
so cliche.
I had a really good one. I'm trying to remember what it was. It might come back to me. The most popular one was Freebird, which makes sense.
This is gonna be our question of the week. I think it should be our question of the week.
What's your tornado death song?
What's your tornado death song?
What's that song at the end of Weathering with You, where they're like falling out of the clouds?
When they're falling out of the clouds, it's Grand Escape, but the one that plays
Yeah.
right before that is I think it's Everything Will Be All Right, or It'll Be All Right.
Grand Escape is one that I thought about, but no one really knows that song, so I wasn't gonna say it.
Nah, it's an underrated hit.
It's in my playlist.
Yo, T-minus 2 weeks till the new Makoto Shinkai film. I already got my tickets. I'm so excited.
T-minus less than a week.
When this episode comes out, T-minus 2 days till the Mario movie.
I'm
doing a review
tickets,
with
baby.
Genre Geeks. Literally, guys, this time, next week, same time, next week, next Monday, Mario review, feat Genre Geeks. I'm so excited.
I
can't wait to talk about that movie. It looks so good.
I don't want to put too much pressure. This might be the episode of the year.
Yeah, we peaked right here. Episode 100?
Yeah, this is it.
No.
Who cares?
Episode 90, Mario movie?
Yeah.
Got it.
Big year for us. So
big year.
That's what's up. I didn't mean to prolong that, but so I gotta ask, how was your week?
Well, you might be watching this episode and thinking, I thought they were going to talk about the original Mario movie to lead into the new one. Okay. Here's my answer to that is, last week, so we had really bad storms last week too.
Mm-hmm.
So last week I stayed up and I was staying up watching the weather and I was like, okay, let me watch something. I'll watch the Mario movie because we're about to do that episode anyway. When I tell you guys that movie was so bad, it wasn't just a bad movie. It was so bad that I didn't even have anything to say about it. We could not have done an hour-long podcast episode on that movie. That's how bad it was. It genuinely was not good. It might be one of the worst movies I've ever watched in my entire life. And not even in it's unironically, not like a Cars 2 kind of way where it's it's bad, but at least it's fun to watch. No, this is just bad. So that's why we changed the episode topic. Well, that and also Jackson didn't really have an accessible way to watch it because he doesn't own 2 copies of the DVD like I do.
I pulled it up on Just Watch and because I was like, where can I watch this? There's legitimately not a single place to stream this, not even to buy it.
Nope.
So
you can buy the DVD on Amazon for $2 because I did that.
What a waste of $2.
Not really. And then I went to McKay's and I got another one for 99 cents. So I have a sealed one and an opened one. I don't know why. I think there was a part of me that was really hoping I was going to like this movie. And kind of in a similar Cars 2 fashion where everyone's like, oh, it's really bad. But then I think I was hoping oh, well, maybe it's not that bad. No, it was that bad. So I watched that. We'll get into my movie number here in a minute for our movie watching competition.
Yeah.
But what else have I done this week? Well, we got 13 minutes of Tears of the Kingdom gameplay. I promise I won't dive into it too much.
Wait.
I'm very excited. The game looks amazing. They revealed a Pro Controller, which I was able to get, and the Collector's Edition also went back in stock, and I got one of those at Walmart, which I usually never shop at Walmart, but I'm also not going to complain because I now got a Collector's Edition. So I'm very excited for all of that coming in literally a month and a half. So that's very cool. And April, I'm telling you, April's just going to fly by, especially doing 2 podcasts that are weekly. April's going to be I'm going to blink and it's going to be May 1st. So I did that. I watched a bunch of movies this week. And, well, actually, that's a lie. I watched a lot of movies last week and not a lot of movies this week. I watched Dragon Ball Evolution, the live-action Dragon Ball movie. It's another really bad one, but I watched it just because, I feel as a filmmaker, you can't make movies if you don't watch bad movies. Because you have to watch bad movies to know what makes a bad movie a bad movie.
Yeah.
So I watched it, and I was like, what's bad about this? It's just a completely unfaithful adaptation of Dragon Ball. It looks like it had a shoestring budget. So... I also watched Sleeping Beauty, which I found out this week. I had not watched Sleeping Beauty ever. I knew enough about it to talk about it circumstantially and know what happens, but I'd never watched it in its entirety. And it's okay. It's definitely a 1959 movie.
I mean, I watched it growing up, but I watched it in its entirety on a cruise once. And I only watched it because it was on and I wanted to eat my ice cream.
I will say, This is one of my new favorite images. It'll probably end up on the Instagram.
Yeah.
But the prince with his horse. I don't know why it's so.
That
funny.
is
It makes
that
me
is
laugh
funny.
every time.
Caption contest.
I do have a hot take I want to come back to about Disney movies, but we can do our movie watching contest.
Yes.
And the last thing I'll note for my week is I sat down this week, and I'm so proud of myself. And I thought, you know what? I want to write a movie. I want to write a film. Because I can sit here and say, oh, well, you know, Christian movies are kind of lame. So, like,
yeah.
nah. But, you know, it's one thing to sit there and criticize. But if you're going to criticize and you want something to change,
about it.
you got to do something about it. So I sat down, and my goal was 90 pages. And I'm currently 31 pages in on this script. And it's definitely like a first draft script. But I'm going somewhere. And I'm kind of just writing it as I go. And not really worrying about too much of the pre-planning. Like, I'll go back and obviously touch it up and do more drafts later. But I'm just trying to get through it. So, yeah, that's been really fun to sit through and do that. But movie watching competition. For those who don't know, Jackson and I are racing to see who can watch 100 movies first in 2023. We don't know what the winner gets yet. That's still kind of up in the air. But last episode we were one apart?
Yeah, we were like 1 or 2 apart, if I remember correctly.
What's your current number? I want to know your number
you to go first.
I need you to go first.
Okay. I don't remember the number last week.
It was like 30 something.
It was like 30. Well,
I think you were at 31 because I was at 32.
Yeah. This week, I hate this because I know you're like way ahead of me.
Nah, maybe not. I don't know.
I'm currently, as of now, April 1st, 2023. This is not a joke. 35 movies.
Amen.
I have 35. What? You're probably at like 52. Like what?
So my current count as of April 1st, 2023, this is not a joke, including rewatches, I'm currently at 45.
Are you... Get a job.
I'm trying!
Listen.
I watched... How many did I watch since the last episode? Okay, Jesus Revolution would have been the first one. So 2, 6, 10, 13.
I've watched...
In 2 weeks?
4.
I think 13 in 2 weeks isn't that bad. That's basically one movie a day.
Yeah. That's not terrible.
There was definitely a world where I got up to 50 before this episode. But I also did a lot of writing this week, so I didn't watch movies.
I'm just saying Tears of the Kingdom is right around the corner.
No, it's true. That was part of my motivation, was like, okay, I need to like have a nice little buffer built in, so when I'm not watching movies and he's catching up, it's not like he's going to surpass me or anything.
I also just I don't know, this week I haven't usually if I'm doing work, like I can sit on the couch and do work with a movie. But the work I've been doing this week, I've been out doing it. And it's just not ideal movie watching conditions. So
yeah,
we'll keep you updated on that.
I've been doing a lot of video editing, and it's really hard to watch movies while editing.
Yeah.
Because you have to be focused on what you're editing. So it's...
I will do when I'm video editing and want to watch a movie is I will knock out the sound editing. Like once I have a rough cut and then all the sound editing done and I'm just like color grading or doing graphics, then I can watch a movie and I don't even need to wear my headphones.
Oh, did you want to mention your short film? Up for a couple awards?
I do want to mention the short film. Nothing insane, but the short film that we worked on, we mentioned in the last episode, went up for a couple little local awards. Nothing insane.
No, we're actually at Sundance. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely not. I'll let you know what wins. This is just a tiny small town festival, but it's kind of cool to be like, okay, something I made like is like it's out there. Like that's cool.
And even if it doesn't win, it's still really cool to be
no,
nominated.
it's awesome. They're gonna play it in the theater, and I get to like see it on the big screen. It's gonna be really
That's gonna
cool.
be so cool. I wish I could be there.
Yeah, so that's cool. I'm currently researching the Amazon Prime Video Direct service, which low key is really easy. Like, I've thought about doing that for a long time. It's really easy. So that's really encouraging to be like, oh my gosh, like this is doable.
Right.
Like, you can just go make short films and put them out. So I'm really excited. I think it's a bright future. I hope everyone can see it somehow. It's just not the kind of project I can just slap on YouTube, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
Like you wanna
take it a little more seriously.
Yeah. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah. So I believe you had a little bit of a hot take before we go into our 3x3s.
Okay. So I was watching not Beauty and the Beast. I was watching Sleeping Beauty this week, and something that I realized is, and it's something that movies don't do a lot anymore, but it's really prevalent in older Disney movies, is how the music in and of itself is a character. Because I'm watching Beauty and the Beast, and the music is so timed to what's happening, almost like they did the music and then animated around it instead of the other way around. And I just wish we did that more. I think that's a really cool aspect, because in Sleeping Beauty, there was not a lot of dialogue. And the music, which is why I say the music is more of a character, is because the music did a lot of the talking and conveyed a lot of the story. And I just wish we did that more. I think that's like, listen, I'm going to sit here and say, we need more classic Disney style movies where like the princess sings and like can talk to animals and sing and attract animals. And the music is so dynamic, and like, not that there's anything wrong with the way we score movies now. I just think it's something that we used to do that we should get back to doing because it was kind of cool. Not for every single movie ever.
Right.
But for a couple, it would be really cool. So that's my hot take.
I agree.
We need
agree with
more
that.
dynamic music.
I can agree with that, because it's like, I don't know. I think DreamWorks currently has some of the best soundtracks for animated movies, at least. I think DreamWorks is kind of killing the game on that. But like, I see where you're coming from, and I think we need to kind of look at what we have and say, just because we have all of the technology available to us doesn't mean it's all good and we should use it all. I think it'd be dope to really say...
What?
What'd you say? Huh? Someone say AI? What? Anyway, I think that it would be dope to release a hand-drawn animated movie in 2023.
Oh,
with, like,
absolutely.
an orchestra. And I think we need to get some movies where it's like, we take that old style and like that same process, which is a beautiful art form, and just you do that with what we have now, and we could knock it out of the park.
Like merge the two together, which is why movies like Puss in Boots and Spider-Verse get a lot of acclaim, is because they're doing that. They're combining the old style with the new stuff, and it looks really good. So we need more of that.
More. Okay, so our top 9. This is like, when I was looking into this, on like what shows and movies, this is just shows and movies, no games or music. That would be a whole nother thing.
We need like an 18 by 18.
Yeah.
For that.
So the top 9, when you can correct me if I'm wrong, I saw this as what media kind of changed who I am just in my personality, but also as a creator, of like what made me want to make what I make.
I looked at it in a very similar way. So yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah. So do you want to go first, or?
So I was gonna ask how you want to do this. One, are we gonna spiral inward?
Yes.
Like follow it and spiral inward.
I ranked mine in order of most influential.
I mean, I kind of did that.
No, I changed. I'll take that back. I did it in order of time. So like, the shows at the beginning are shows that I was influenced by a kid, and then it's like it gets more like recent as it goes on.
I did not do that. I just kind of slapped them on there because I built it as I went.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want me to do all 9 or do you want to go back and forth? Because we could do.
I want to go
I'll
back
do
and forth.
all 9, and then we talk about it, or we can go back and forth.
I kind of want to go back and forth.
All right, cool. My first one is one that got added today. I almost missed it. Is Lego Ninjago. This show. Yeah, the show. Such a good show. This was like one of my favorite childhood shows because it was just so cool. Like these ninjas, like first of all, ninjas are cool, but also like there's dragons and there's a four-headed dragon and they've got these really cool elemental powers. And like, I also really love the Lego sets. Ninjago is, I would say, the show that started the domino effect of me like starting my Lego YouTube channel. And I know this kind of sounds like, oh, that's kind of cringe, but also like, hey, these are the shows and movies that impacted us, and it did impact me because that was like, Ninjago was also like, I did my own fan Ninjago stop motion thing. Like that was one of my first big writing projects. So I think it would be a crime to leave it off this list, but it is such a good show. Hot take, should have ended at season 10 and now they're on like season 16.
Yeah. It like
should have ended a long time ago.
It like ended and now it's like making a triumphant return as if it wasn't done for like less than a month. So
Yeah.
I don't know. You made me think of a really good meme I saw earlier and I found it. And it's like the guy singing I'm Only Human After All. And it says, Sensei Wu, after abducting 3 teens and a robot to fight against his bloodlusted demonic psychopathic brother, said, I'm only human after all. It's like, I thought that was really funny.
It's so true.
Okay. Keep in mind, I'm going all the way back. The way back at the beginning. But it's really weird. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So, way back in the beginning, I had to look back and kind of realize how much this impacted me, which is weird to kind of connect the dots in your brain of like what you did as a kid and what you do as an adult and realize how it's the same. So, here I am with my first item on the list being VeggieTales.
Yo!
So, let me explain. Growing up in like a Christian household, VeggieTales was like the stuff because it was a quality media that wasn't like... And the climate for children's media is completely different now, like 12 years later. But even then, like... you had to be careful what your kids watched. That's just part of being a parent. And VeggieTales was the one thing you could trust as like, oh, this is just fun. It's solid. Like you don't have to worry about it. And so I ate it up, left no crumbs. And the stories were fun. The characters were iconic. But the most impactful thing for me were silly songs with Larry. And I think...
Amen.
Let me tell you. Sport utility vehicle slaps. Pizza Angel slaps. Gated community slaps.
I would dare say not a single silly song misses.
No, they
all
don't
hit.
miss. And looking at my music career now, which you can listen on Spotify and Apple Music as Jackson Glass, I was kind of like, where did like funny, like high quality but like kind of silly music comes from? I was like, oh my gosh, I just wanted to make silly songs with Larry. That's all I wanted to do. And now at like 19 years old, I'm doing it. And it's just insane to look back at that, like that progression. So VeggieTales impacted me the most. It was also like a Christian media that I was like, oh, Christians can do media. Like, okay, I'll give it a shot. So here I am.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and piggyback off of VeggieTales because it's on mine. It's not the next one, but it's on mine, so we can go ahead and talk about it. I would also agree, as you know, being that good Christian homeschool kid, VeggieTales was among that list of shows that I was allowed to watch, and it was actually really good. Like, it did show, hey, Christians can make good content that gets the story across in an entertaining way that also doesn't feel preachy, which is, you know, give or take kind of the issue with, you know, media now. Anyway, for me, one, Silly Songs with Larry also slaps. But I think just how much VeggieTales has influenced my life in the sense of like, I'll be downstairs with my mom and we'll reference stuff from VeggieTales like it's just naturally a part of the conversation. Like, I don't remember what we were talking about, but we somehow brought up like slapping people with fishes from Jonah.
From the Jonah movie. Yeah.
And it was one of my friends didn't understand the reference, and I was telling my mom about it, and she was like, I don't think you can be friends with that person anymore. And I'm like, no, you're probably right. If you don't understand the VeggieTales reference, sorry, we can't be friends.
Get out.
So, but I loved VeggieTales, like the Pirates Who Don't Do Anything and Larry Boy, and it just was all there. And I still have the aspiration of one day shooting an overly dramatic music video for a silly song.
For Pizza Angel. It has
for
to
Pizza
be
Angel. It has to be Pizza Angel. Like, just get so dramatic with it. And I'm going to do it one day.
That's so good. That's so good. All right. Well, I guess I can go again because
because I just did one.
Yeah. So, moving forward a little bit in time, I got a little older, and this was before we cut our cable. I was too young to watch this show, but thank God I did watch it because it changed the chemistry in my brain. And the show was pretty ahead of its time, to be honest, for the show. And so my next influential show was iCarly, which, like, that show's cringe. It's pretty cringe, but it's kind of hilarious, kind of inappropriate now that I think about it. Like, I probably wouldn't let my kids watch that, like, that young. That's why we ended up cutting our cable. But just that, like, the whimsy of the early internet in that show just appealed to me so much. The whole, like, oh, we get to be, like, stars, but we don't have to go to, like, Hollywood, and we don't have to, like, anyone can do it. And that's what was so appealing to me. And there's old videos me and my sister made. We had the web show of fun. That's just what we did. Like, it was really goofy and stupid, but looking back, I'm like, that's what I'm doing right now. Like, right. That's what I'm doing right now. Like, I did it, Mom. Like, I'm here. And
look at me, Mom, I made it.
And so it's kind of like that's where that came from. Like, that just desire to be not an internet creator, but an internet creator, essentially. And just, like, that creative process. And I was like, oh my gosh, Freddie is literally me. Like, the goofy tech guy that just, like, wants to make a good video. Like, that's me. And so, I don't know. It's weird. Like I said, it's weird to say. And we'll get into some more serious media later down the line as I got older. But, like, that show, it impacted me. And it made me want to keep making videos. So there you go.
I think that's fair.
iCarly changed my life.
Nice. Well, here. Mine's not in this order, but I will say them in, like, I'll go in a similar order.
Mm-hmm.
My next one, and I gotta bring it to represent Christmas movies, but The Polar Express. I still watch that movie to this day. And I will die on the hill. It is arguably the greatest Christmas movie ever made. Like, and I've talked about it before on podcast episodes, like, the layered meanings of, if you're religious, you can take one meaning away. If you're not religious, you can take it another way. If you're somewhere in between, you can take it this way. And nothing about the movie changes. Like, it's the same movie, just you can interpret it in all these different ways built into it without having to be like, well, if you read this article online, that's how the movie plays out. And also, like, say what you want about the animation. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but I don't think it looks bad. Like, I think there are animated movies that come out now that look worse than The Polar Express. So, yeah. I mean,
here's the thing.
It's the mocap that throws people off.
Just because something is bad, if nothing else, it's memorable.
Right.
That's what I've kind of learned, is, like, The Polar Express hits that uncanny valley of, like, that's kind of weird. But like after like 30 minutes, your eyes adjust to it, and you're like, "This is just an animated movie. It's fine."
Exactly.
And it's memorable. So they were
Also,
trying.
As a kid, and actually not even as a kid, still now, I love trains. Trains are so cool. There's just something so cool about steam trains, man.
All aboard.
Hold on. We're doing honorable mentions, and I'm about to cut one of my honorable mentions for a different one.
Are you putting Thomas the Tank Engine on
I am.
honorable mentions?
I can't
so
not
valid.
mention it.
That's so
But
valid.
we'll get to it later.
Okay, next up. And I might need to defend this a little bit, but hear me out. The Force Awakens.
Defend. Go.
Let me tell you, The Force Awakens was the first big theater experience of my life.
Really?
Yeah.
In
There
2015?
Yeah.
What a loser.
Because I saw well, the thing is, I saw a ton of movies in theaters growing up, but I don't think it clicked in my mind that like the movie theater could be like a communicative experience until The Force Awakens.
Okay, actually, never mind. I
Because-
rescind my comment. That's fair.
Yeah. So, and I wasn't even really a big Star Wars guy until The Force Awakens, which like, oh my gosh, fake fan. I was like 14, okay? I wasn't like going to see Revenge of the Sith in the theater, like no. So I just kind of went, I was like, I've seen Star Wars and I liked Star Wars, but then I saw The Force Awakens and I felt like it was like December and we lived in Seattle at the time, so it's freaking below freezing, like standing outside this theater. And I was like freezing. I'm with like my whole family and like everyone is in line. We stood in line for tickets, which like I would never do that ever today. We stood in line to go to the glass booth and get tickets. Like who does that anymore?
That's
that
so
was so
pre-2020.
So magical. So pre-2020. That is so true. And I sat down in the theater and I was like, oh, this is going to be really good. Like I like Star Wars. And then it's the big and it's just applause erupts in the theater. And like everyone there was like crying and applauding, and the whole movie was like that. The whole movie, everyone was like, "Boo! Yeah, yeah!" It was like watching a play.
Right.
Like this is a screen, and we're going, "Yeah, woo!" And so that was, I think, impactful for me because it started my Star Wars kick, like truly as like a real Star Wars fan. But it also, like, that's when it clicked in my brain that movie theaters are awesome. So there you go. That's my defense. The movie itself, I think, is okay. So it's more about the experience.
We'll eventually come back and debate the sequel trilogy. We have to at some point.
Yes.
Because, I mean, I'm not going to say The Force Awakens is bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think The Last Jedi is better. And apparently
just-
I'm wrong in thinking that. But okay, as long as we can all agree The Rise of Skywalker is the worst, I think that's okay.
Literally.
We can debate the other two, but as long as we all agree,
Yeah.
the third one is the worst.
Oh, it's trash.
Speaking of third movies, my next one is Toy Story 3 for
okay.
a childhood reason, but also an adult reason to like transition into like my more recent
More serious
feelings.
media.
So, Toy Story 3. First of all, huge Toy Story fan. And Toy Story is kind of here to represent like my Disney movies too, because is it? Oh my gosh, it's the only Disney movie on here. Wow, that's crazy. Spoiler alert, I guess. But I was a big Toy Story fan as a kid. I had Woody and Buzz, and I wrote my name on the bottom of their like shoes in Sharpie, and it was great. And those were always my favorite Pixar movies. And then Toy Story 3 came out. And here's a fun little story for those who don't know. So, Toy Story 3 released on June 18th, 2010.
I love this story.
I was 8. I was so excited. My mom, like, took a half day at work, and we were going to go see Toy Story 3. And we get to the theater, and when we get to the theater, she gets a phone call. And I'm like, oh, probably just like an easy work phone call, and then we go in. So I'm sitting in the car waiting, like all excited and stuff. I got my Buzz and Woody, and I'm ready to go. And she gets off the phone, and she starts backing out of the parking lot. And I'm like, wait,
What? Where
are we going?
Story?
And she was like, oh, the birth mom just called. She's having your sister. She's in labor right now. We need to go. I was so mad at my not yet born sister because I couldn't go see Toy Story 3. I had to wait like a week. I love my sister to death.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and I give her a hard time for it now, like as a joke, because like, oh, obviously she had no control over it. But it was just so funny to me that like as a kid, that was what ruined my whole day. It was like, you're about to be a big brother. You know, you're going to have a younger sister. Like, it's going to be great. No, I'm mad. I wanted to see Toy Story 3. Like, what? So those two things will forever be linked together. But my more like recent reason is I watched it recently and I mentioned it on a previous podcast episode, but I cried at the end of Toy Story 3, which I don't cry at anything. Like, it takes an insane amount to make me cry. I'll get sad and emotional and like feel sad, but I don't cry. At the end of Toy Story 3, when Andy is with Bonnie and like giving away his toys and like they're sitting on the porch watching him drive away to leave for college, I couldn't control it, man. And it hits different now. Like, it obviously didn't hit me as an 8-year-old, but now as someone who's gone through that entire experience and, you know, done the whole, I have to leave toys behind, I have to move to college, you know, the car is packed from, you know, floor to ceiling with stuff, and like you got to really push to get your trunk closed, and just all of that combined together with the music and everything finally got me. So
oh,
God bless Toy Story for making me cry.
Thanks for nothing.
But, you know, also having to wait a week because, you know, I got my sister, we went and picked up my sister because she was adopted.
I
like,
saw that
what?
in theaters. I saw it in theaters like twice.
Imagine. Cringe.
Moving on. This one is, I won't have as much to say about this one, but I think Saturday Night Live impacted me more than I think it did.
That's a long show.
Because I used to, like, I wasn't allowed to watch shows like that growing up. And so I watched So Random, which is Disney's crap version of sketch comedy, which is low-key a pretty good show, but it's not that good. So Saturday Night Live was a show that I was like, it was one of those shows as a kid where it would come on, like a promotional would come on like at Target on their TV section, and I'd be like, when I grow up, I'm gonna watch that show. And like late night TV was so, it appealed to me so much, but I wasn't old enough. So when I got old enough, like watching these old episodes of Saturday Night Live with like Steve Martin, or even like the old, air quote old, with like Amy Poehler and like Andy Samberg and like Fred Armisen, like those are that's my favorite era after watching a ton of episodes on Hulu. And I think like just the impact of watching sketch comedy after like wanting to do that for so long was just like, oh, this is what I want. Like, this is what I want to do. This is my content. And so like So Random, Saturday Night Live, like Portlandia, like those kind of like sketch comedy shows, I think influenced what I wanted to make for a lot of years. So you can go back some of my early YouTube days, like some of those sketches are like really cringy, but I thought they were awesome. I was like, sketch comedy is the future. And even though I've pulled away from that a little bit, like I've found a way to still incorporate that into a lot of the things I do, even for like when other people want videos and stuff from me. So I just think like I had to mention the impact of sketch comedy on my life. I had to share that.
I think that's fair.
Had to be
that's
there.
Understandable. You want to know what my show? I mean, it's not on my list, but when you were like, "That's the show I'm going to watch as an adult," it was Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Because I remember listening to my aunt and uncle talk about it, and I was like, "Ooh, can I watch it? It's got Chris Pratt in it." And they're like, "Oh, not till you're older." And I'm like, "Oh, when I'm older, I'm going to watch Parks and Rec." And then I did. It was really good. It didn't make it on the list. Well, you know what show did make it on my list though? In a similar vein to Parks and Rec, The Office. It was a toss-up. There were a couple others, but I also felt like this 3x3 would not be like, it would not be accurate without The Office, because that was the first sitcom that I ever sat down and watched, and it's just so good. Like my recent kick instead of watching movies, has been to watch like clips from The Office while I'm eating lunch or whatever, because there is an infinite amount of clip compilations on YouTube. So I've been like kind of rewatching it through that, and then when I go to small group on Mondays, we watch like an episode of The Office. If I get there early enough, before we start, we watch an episode of The Office, so it's great.
That's iconic.
But I'm watching it, and it's just such a good show. And when people say it couldn't be made now, that is absolutely 100% true. And I think that's what makes it so good. Is it's like almost a period piece in a way, of like pre-2010s comedy. And I mean, it's kind of funny, but you know, like some of it, you're like, that was skirting the line even then. But the one big thing, and this is another hot take, I guess, is I think Jim and Pam should be the standard for romantic relationships. I'm serious. I think if you can't find someone who looks at you and treats you and loves you the same way that Jim loves Pam or Pam loves Jim, you shouldn't be with that person. I'm sorry. Like, if you ain't got a Pam to your Jim or a Jim to your Pam, it ain't it. It ain't it.
Wow.
Like, just especially how they develop that relationship, because in a very similar vein to like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, is Jim and Pam never break up. Yeah. They don't do the traditional like Ross and Rachel, like, oh, we're going to break up and oh, it's so sad and oh, we're going to get back together. Like, they stay together and they work through the hard things that make life hard. Like, relationships are hard. They're not easy, and they work through that together, which is how life is supposed to be. So that's another reason why I say it should be the standard. But then my favorite Jim and Pam moment, which I guess spoilers for a show that's over 10 years old, like chill out. My two favorites are when Pam's dad or her parents get divorced, and then she asks Jim, what did you tell him? And he tells her, like, oh, I told your dad how I feel when you walk in a room. You know, I never doubted for a second that you're the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. Like, those kind of things. And then towards the end of the series, where Pam has a lot of doubts, which I know it's kind of like a hit or miss with the last seasons, but that's the one thing they kind of handled well. Where she's like, what if I'm not enough for you? And then he puts together this entire video compilation of their relationship up until this point, and is like, not enough for me. You're everything to me. Yeah. Like, that is just, oh, so good. The Office in and of itself is a great show, but that Pam and Jim should be the standard for romantic relationships.
I think, you know, The Office is not on my list, but as you're saying those things, I was like, it might need to be. Because The Office, that like mockumentary style was also something I was fascinated with. And I shot a lot of videos like that in high school. And I was like kind of fascinated by that. And I entered an Instagram contest like junior year where they were like, recreate a scene from The Office. And the winner gets like a shout out or something on some Office meme page with like 10,000 followers or something like that. And I was like, okay, bet. And I put my heart into it. And I won. And they DM'd me and they were like, this is like the most effort anyone has ever put into any of this contest. Like, you destroyed it. And so that was almost kind of validation of like, okay, I'm good at video. Like, I can do this.
I got this.
And I can't believe I never thought about that. Huh. The Office should probably be on my list, but it's not. Anyway, honorable mention, The Office. All right, my next one. Hear me out.
Oh, boy.
WandaVision.
Here we go.
WandaVision. Because, let me tell you, I don't think I've ever felt a stronger community around a show that was going weekly. It was the start of Marvel's shows back when they were good. And I've gone through my Instagram archive a couple times when WandaVision was going, and I look back and kind of cringe because I was so incredibly into it, and like I would post on my story about it every day, and I would just be freaking out like, what is happening? This is insane. And then like I felt like there was a creativity to it that like just inspired me of like, oh, they're recreating sitcoms and they're doing different styles, and it's one of those like insanely creative shows that just was the thing. WandaVision was it when it was on, and I think like just as a creative it inspired me incredibly. And so I don't think I've felt a stronger community around a weekly show than WandaVision still.
WandaVision was Jackson's Tears of the Kingdom.
Yes.
Like,
yes,
I'm gonna be
was.
real. If you go back and listen to those early 2021 episodes up until we reviewed WandaVision, he would not stop talking about it.
No.
Like, every episode we talked about WandaVision. It was
I was
great.
A stan. I was
And I totally
in.
agree. Because, like, Elizabeth Olsen is a queen. Like, come on.
Slay.
One of the only Marvel characters I still am invested in. I really hope they bring her back.
Girl,
Otherwise,
that's true.
you might have lost me permanently outside of Loki season 2 and Guardians. So, WandaVision is very good. Please don't die though. That would be bad.
I'm okay.
He's okay. No, I'm not gonna say that.
I just got the crud.
Anyway, which one? I guess I'll do this one because then I can get back on my my circle. So you might have noticed we're going on number 6, and I still haven't mentioned an anime. Well, let me fix that. We all knew it was gonna be here. My Hero Academia. This show, it might be a stretch if I say it changed my life, but for me, it was just one of those shows that came in my life at the right time, because I was going through a depressive phase, and I was like, I'll watch this silly show about a silly little guy who wants to be a hero, and then I got really into it. Like, I could relate to Deku on a personal level, and I made a whole video about it a while ago. It was a school project, but I did it anyway. And just his story of like people telling him you can't be a hero because XYZ was very parallel to where I was at in my life, where I had just told some family members that like, hey, I want to go to film school. And they're like, no, you can't go to film school because XYZ. So like those things lining up, and the fact that he went and did it anyway, despite all of those people telling him that he couldn't do it. And then I was going to do it anyway, despite all of the people telling me not to do it, just was so relatable. And it also, I would argue, is my comfort media, because after like I got out of a relationship, I started reading the manga, and that became my like comfort thing, was reading the manga. But also in reading the manga, one, got me into manga, which has been such a huge inspiration creatively. But then, like, I don't know, it just changed my life. It's my favorite anime of all time, and everybody will say like Mid-Hero Academia, and I'm like, okay, that's a subjective opinion. I mean, you think One Piece is good, but shouldn't take 1,000 episodes to be good. Anyway, I've just triggered the entire anime fan base. Whoopsies.
Anyway. Yeah. I think saying changed my life sounds dramatic, but like it's true. So,
no, it's true. If you look at it from like a definition standpoint, yeah.
It just sounds weird to be like, changed my life, but like I guess it did. So moving on, and this might be another double up on both of ours. I'm gonna say that Community really impacted me. Is that on your list?
It is in my honorable mentions.
What? It's not even in the 9?
No.
You're a bigger Community fan than I am.
I know. It was so hard.
Oh.
Because I swapped it out for VeggieTales.
Oh. I don't know how I feel about that.
It was so hard because it didn't feel right to put Community in over The Office, like to swap those out. But it also didn't feel right to not have VeggieTales, and that was the one thing that I couldn't get rid of.
That's hard.
So it's in my honorable mentions.
I think Community was one of those shows that I just kind of started on a whim. Back when I used to like work out every other day during quarantine, I was like, well, may as well get swole. I did not get swole, but I just would prop up my iPad and watch Community. And what was really funny is it got to a point where I'd be like, well, I'm going to go work out. And then I would just watch Community. So My mom eventually caught on to me. She was like, I know when you go to work out in jeans, you're just there to watch TV. And I was like, that's based.
No. My mom showed me a reel the other day. There was like, it was this video where it's like, what's the most fat thing you've ever done? And I'm like, oh, I don't know where this is going. And it was this woman explaining, like, I put on my sweats like I'm going to the gym. I take a spray bottle with me, and then I go out and I get Chick-fil-A. And then I sit in the parking lot of the gym and I eat Chick-fil-A. And then before I go home, I spray my forehead and I spray my armpits and like I spray myself with this water bottle so it looks like I've been sweating. But in actuality, I just went and got Chick-fil-A. And I was like, no, actually, that is something I would do.
That's based. That is something you absolutely would do. I believe that entirely. Yeah, I think Community was just the first show that I watched that made me realize that shows can be weird. And because I watched The Office, I watched Parks and Rec, I'd seen Friends, and those are all like air quote normal shows. Where Community was the first thing I watched that made me go, oh, that's kind of weird. And I think I can look at like stuff I'm making now, stuff I want to make. Like even our short film was like kind of inspired, like, oh, this is weird. Like this is really weird. And that kind of comedy and that kind of writing was foreign to me before Community. And I've seen the impact that it's had on me of like, this is just like, it's just like this, oh, what the heck? Like, and it's just an insanely creative show. The way that they would parody movies and like it, 10 out of 10, just such a good show. Even the last 2 seasons that Yahoo made, I think are great. So you can fight me on that if you want.
No, I won't fight you. I think they are good. They're not like peak Community, but they're still good. Like they're enjoyable, and I think that's what matters. Is
still better than the gas leak year.
It can be Okay, hold on. The gas leak year wasn't that bad. Like,
I disagree.
We'll do a whole episode on Community in the future, probably before the movie comes out. What do you mean? We haven't done a Community episode in like 3 years.
Yeah, that's why I said again, because we did do one. It's just been a hot minute.
Also, never forget, you recommended Community to me, and you hadn't even finished it yet, and I finished it before you did.
Yeah.
That's insanely cringe, by the way.
Yeah, well, sorry, some of us want to actually remember the shows we watch.
What are you talking about? I remember the show better than you do.
Yeah, because you've seen it 4 times.
That's true. I'm about to start watching it again. What's your point? No, I really love Community. I agree with everything you say. The one thing I don't like about it is how they kind of mix and match the couples, which I think if they could have gotten that down and kind of stuck to one, even if you did like a Ross and Rachel with Jeff and Britta, as opposed to like, oh, we're going to throw Annie in here. We're going to throw like, oh, maybe Britta and Troy, or like maybe Annie and Troy, or like Annie and Abed. Like you didn't need to do like how many combinations can we get? But other than that, it's incredibly good sitcom. If you have not seen it yet, it's on Netflix. You should watch it. Speaking of things that are on Netflix.
Oh.
This is probably going to be a double up for both of us.
Tall girl. Tall girl didn't change your life?
No, I'm actually going to talk about the Kissing Booth.
Kissing Booth 3. I'm here to talk about the Kissing Booth 3. That's
the one that has Mario Kart in it. No, this would probably be a double up for both of us, or it might be an honorable mention. Bo Burnham's Inside is another thing that
on my
changed
list.
my life because, one, the music is killer. I listen to the music weekly, if not daily. Bo Burnham was my most listened to artist last year and is probably on track to do it again this year. We'll see. There's a J-pop band who might beat him out. I don't know. But one, as someone who was in film school when this came out, it showed me how realistic it is to do something like this by yourself. You do not need a big crew to do it. You can do it by yourself, which was kind of reaffirming for me as someone who had been a YouTuber doing it all by myself. But also the music really helped, how do I want to say this? It helped validate feelings that aren't normally validated by music. Like those weird feelings that you don't know what to do with. and you kind of like you just want to veg out and just kind of like be sad for a half hour and then call it a day. And that's what the inside music does for me, is like if I'm in a bad mood or I'm stressed or depressed, you just pop on Inside for a half hour and I'm all good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there was another thing I was going to say, but I don't remember what it was.
Well, Inside is on my list. I was not mentally prepared to talk about it yet, but here we are.
How?
Think
we're getting close to the end. What do you mean?
No, it wasn't. It was. I had another one before it. Okay.
Oh.
So Inside, I watched it. It was another one I watched on a whim. I was just like, whatever. I watched it by myself at 1 a.m. Horrible idea.
No, that sounds like a great idea, actually.
I legitimately, because I had no idea what it was, I think I had to take maybe 2 days to recover mentally. Just for like being no expectation, watching that by yourself at 1 a.m., I was not in a good place. So, but I've watched it like 2 times after, and I just appreciate the artistry. Like this man by himself made probably the best variety special I've ever seen.
Yep.
And by
100%.
himself. And I think what was so fascinating to me, this is kind of piggybacking off your comment, was Inside is just YouTube at the highest level possible. He is at heart a child of the internet. And so just he's doing what I always wanted to do at the highest level possible. And it made me realize, oh, that's what I want to do. Not, I'm going to post videos on YouTube and it'll be fun. But I was like, like you can make content that would work on YouTube in an extremely professional way that works outside of YouTube. And that perspective just changed the way I create. Because
absolutely.
Also, here's the thing. I don't want this to be heresy. Inside was adult Silly Songs with Larry.
No, true.
Because
same vibe.
It was funny songs that actually were really, really well done. I think he's underappreciated as a singer. He has an amazing voice. But it was so much more serious and tackled real things, but was still funny. And so it's almost like a more worldly, adult Silly Songs with Larry that also made me think it essentially, like you said, it validated what child me always wanted to do in a way that I had never seen or felt before. Right. So that's what I mean when I say it changed the way I create. It almost took me back to my roots in a sense, if that makes sense. So, and I think it did that for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So,
I would
10
agree.
out of 10. I have it on vinyl.
I'm so jealous you have it on vinyl.
I will say, well, I don't have the big collection because they just released that after I bought it on vinyl. You suck. Anyway.
That's always how it works.
I will say Inside is one of those things where I have to be in the mood. I don't put Inside songs in my playlist because I have to be ready for it. That's the difference between us. I have to be
what does that
fully
say?
Ready.
What does that
Inside.
say about my mental health that I can listen to Inside anytime I want?
I mean, I don't know.
It can't be a good thing.
It's the kind of thing where I appreciate it for the art, but I can't just pop it on whenever. So
I could listen to Inside right now if I wanted to.
Dang. So I guess you can go again.
Okay, here's what I'll say. We're gonna do honorable mentions before our last one, right?
I have 2.
Well, yeah, I also have 2. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah.
That's the plan. Okay, I was just double checking. Okay.
Yeah.
My second to last one, which a lot of people might have thought this would be my last one, Weathering with You. I don't know. Is that another double up?
No, that is not a double up.
Okay. Weathering with You.
I would have put that as your top.
I mean, you'll hear my top and you'll be like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It's the Mario movie.
Of course it is. I've actually seen it. Peak Fiction has changed my life.
If
Weathering
it's Sonic
with You.
2, I'm leaving.
It's okay. It's not Sonic 2. I promise. Weathering with You is, I'm not going to say it's the greatest anime film of all time, because I can understand from an objective standpoint, there are a lot of flaws with it. And I understand that. But it is my favorite film of all time. And every time I rewatch it, I find something new in it every single time. And there's not a lot of movies that I can do that with. And the fact that I can do that with Weathering with You speaks volumes. But it's also, and you can go check out the video. Jackson did a video on like 4 unusual romance movies. I almost said romance anime. That would be wrong. But he talked about in that video how Weathering with You follows up on its consequences. Like, it threatens, hey, if you do this, there's going to be a consequence. And they're like, okay, we're going to do that. And then they get the consequence. Like, it doesn't pull its punches in that regard, but it's also just a really compelling movie about this kid who's run away and just wants something completely different out of life and wants to do something new. And I don't want to be that guy, but they do flesh that out a lot more in the manga adaptation.
Ooh.
And there's a lot of stuff from the movie, or there's a lot of stuff from the manga that didn't make it into the movie that kind of helps flesh out their characters more. Mm-hmm. So if you like the movie, I would highly suggest reading the manga. But the movie on its own is standalone. Like, you can watch the movie on its own and it be a complete good story. And I think that's another thing that's missing from a lot of media nowadays is everything has to be a sequel. Everything has to be part of a franchise. And having a movie like this that can just be a one and done singular movie, and it can reference and make cameos to previous movies. Like, the 2 protagonists from Your Name have cameos in Weathering with You, which is kind of why I'm hopeful that, Hina and Hodaka will have cameos in the new movie, but we'll have to wait and see. But you can do that and have it be implied that, like, they're in the same universe, but it doesn't have to be part of a franchise. And that
is beautiful.
Love this movie so much. I will sing its praises till the day I die.
This is one of those rare movies that I could and probably will watch until the end of time. Like, it's not on my list just because, like, there's more influential things, and I think Weathering with You for me is more like, that's just an incredible movie. So Weathering with You, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
Banger.
So second to last for me, I don't know if this will be a surprise to anyone. We'll see. I put as my number 2, Only Murders in the Building.
Not shocked at all. I'm surprised it's not your number 1.
Now, let me tell you. Only Murders in the Building transitioned me into adult television. What I mean by that. Growing up, like we talked about this. Growing up in a chill homeschool Christian household, you don't watch anything. Like, the restrictions are so strict, which I'm very thankful for. But I also was like 17 or 18 before I realized I was old enough to watch those things, and out of my own volition was mature enough to decide what I could watch. And so Only Murders in the Building was like recommended on my Hulu, and I was like, okay, Selena Gomez, Martin Short, Steve Martin, like that's a rad cast. Like, let me just pop it on. My mom was making fun of me. She's like, how's your murder show? And I told her, I was like, it's phenomenal. It's amazing. So we had a huge group. We called it Murder Night. We ended up with like 8 people like watching the show together. And so that experience kind of made me realize the ideal way to watch TV is weekly with a big group. Anything else like is good, but it's like that's the superior way in my opinion. So I think that experience made me like it. I'd also it made me love Steve Martin, which he's like my favorite actor now, but like watching him in that show made me want to go back to his old movies, and I've watched a ton of his old movies now, and he's like my favorite, and I have both of his books. And so just like letting him that introduce me to my favorite actor was incredible. The experience was incredible, and the show itself, like, it was one of those, like, visually was insanely creative and did so many weird visual effects that was just like also kind of weird. And I thought, yes, like, this is what I want. So, Only Murders in the Building, I think, is one of the most recent influences for me, like just as a person, as a creator, as a group.
Totally understandable. It is a very good show. I need to watch season 2. I still haven't watched season 2. I mean, I have access to the Hulu account, so I could totally watch it.
Honorable mentions?
Honorable mentions. All right. I'm going to do all 3 of mine at once. Because Community, we've already talked about Community. My second one, Thomas the Tank Engine, which we spoiled earlier. Hey, listen, that was my show. I love trains. I still have in our attic right now multiple boxes full of the wooden, like, Thomas trains, because my mom was like, listen, I spent a fortune on these things and they don't make them anymore, so they're going to your kids, and then they'll go to your kids' kids and their kids' kids' kids. And I'm like, no, you're right. You're so true. This will now be a family heirloom that is passed down from generation to generation, is these wooden Thomas trains. So yeah, love Thomas. And then my third one is one that I didn't think was going to be an honorable mention until I started looking at like shows that I hadn't added. Star versus the Forces of Evil. It's a Disney Channel show from like 2015. And I would argue, I mean, it's my favorite Disney Channel show. And yes, the ending was not great. I understand. For all fans of the show, you'll know the ending was kind of rushed. That's not the creator's fault, though. That's Disney's fault. So get mad at Disney for that. But it's also just a really cool show. I'll probably make a video on it at some point when I get around to it. I want to rewatch it. I wish I had the time to rewatch more shows. Like, I always get so caught up in, like, I want to watch new shows, but at the same time, I'm like, well, I really want to rewatch old shows because it's been a while. But I would also argue Marco and Star are a great example of how, I'll say it. It's a great way to handle going from friends to a relationship in a very realistic way. And that was probably one of the better aspects of the show. It also very much related to my life because I was the kid who wore hoodies, who was a more strict rule follower, who had the blonde hair, blue-eyed friend who was a lot more rambunctious than I. So relatable in that sense as well. So those are my honorable mentions. What are yours?
Honorable mentions, I put Inception on there because it's been in my top 5 favorite movies for I think 10 years because it was the first cool movie that I saw. I don't think the wonder of Inception will ever die on me. Like, that was the movie I watched that I thought, weird, like, cool movies are cool. And, like, that, like, it connected the dots in my brain of, like, movies can be confusing, and that's okay. Like, you can make deeper story. That's probably the first, like, deep story movie I watched. So, but I'm also, like, I'm not going and making an Inception fan film. So it didn't make, like, the top 9. But it's on there. Once you said The Polar Express, I had to put... I did Elf/Home Alone. Because...
That's 2 honorable mentions.
That's 2.
And I'm 2.
Sorry.
It's not 1.
I'm sorry. I had to get my Christmas movies in there because I'm, like, a Christmas movie fiend. I absolutely just eat up Christmas movies. And I think Home Alone even set me up to, like, really enjoy movies like John Wick, like, just violent movies.
Yeah,
so,
no, that makes sense.
Like, it just kind of, like, the ability to, like, laugh at a violent movie, in a sense, and be like, this is kind of rad. I think that kind of helped set up that opinion. And Elf, I think, also set up, like, kind of my sense of humor. In a way of like, haha, that's hilarious. Like, he's just goofy. Top honorable mention, I gotta say SpongeBob SquarePants. Let me tell you, when I say that SpongeBob is the base level of humor for us to be friends, I mean that. If I make a SpongeBob reference and you don't know what I'm saying, it hurts me inside. It hurts me inside.
It's like me with Jonah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like, it was one of those insanely creative shows that I wasn't allowed to watch.
Same.
After a while. We cut our cable, but I watched enough of it I watched enough of it to where I remember pretty much every episode of the first 3 or 4 seasons. And so I was pretty obsessed, and I see why I wasn't allowed to watch it now. But I watched enough of it for it to alter my brain's chemistry to be like, this is how you be funny. I was picking apart the comedy of SpongeBob as a kid. I was like, that's why this is funny. And so I think that's kind of where a lot of my comedic influence came from at an early age. But it's also SpongeBob, so I'm not going to put it in the top 9. Good honorable mentions.
The fact that I've learned so much about SpongeBob just from interacting with people who have seen it. And like, I know it enough to participate in the culture of like understanding and laughing at SpongeBob memes.
Mm-hmm.
And I can get them enough just from like osmosis from the internet.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all I know. I was never allowed to watch SpongeBob as a kid. Actually, I got caught watching SpongeBob once and lost TV privileges for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Like, not allowed to watch SpongeBob. Wow. That was a hard no.
And
I'm like, you know what?
Okay for a while.
I understandable. Yeah. I respect that.
Hey, you're an adult now. You can watch every episode of SpongeBob if you want.
That's true, but do I want to is the question. I could watch anime instead.
Yes, you want to. Yes, you want to.
No, I don't.
SpongeBob is my favorite anime.
Okay. Moving on. The show or movie that impacted us the most. Number one. Do you want to guess what mine is?
Is it Demon Slayer?
No, it's not Demon Slayer. You think Demon Slayer would go higher than My Hero Academia?
I don't know.
You've gotten this question wrong before. Because we've had another episode where it ended this way and you got it wrong.
I know what it is. You ready? It's Star Wars The Clone Wars.
It is Star Wars The Clone Wars. You got it this time.
Yes, I've learned my lesson.
I know I said Ninjago was my show as a kid. This was my show as a kid. I was home every Friday at 4 Central to watch new episodes of The Clone Wars from season 4 on. Every week. I was so mad when I would miss a week because we didn't have a DVR to record it. So if I missed it, it was gone. And I would have to pick up the next week and hope that they replayed it before they played the new episode. So then I'd have to be home earlier. I'd have to be home at 4:30, 5:30 Central. Or that was backwards, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Also, The Clone Wars is what got me into Star Wars. That is what made me a Star Wars fan. And I will always cherish The Clone Wars. It's my number one show of all time, above My Hero Academia even. And Ahsoka is my favorite Star Wars character. What can I say? She's awesome. Like, Ahsoka is the character that showed me that girls can be cool. Especially, like, no, because, like, I was 8. And I was like, ew, girls are gross. And then I saw Ahsoka and I was like, whoa, girls can be cool and do cool stuff just like guys.
Can I quote you on that? And then I saw Ahsoka and said, whoa.
You got to include the girls can be cool part. Otherwise, it sounds weird.
Ahsoka made me realize girls can be cool. He's like, I turned from my misogynist ways because of the cool animated Jedi girl. And she came on screen and I said, wow.
I mean.
Oh.
But yeah.
That's really funny.
The Clone Wars is the reason I'm into Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
It's the reason I started making content on YouTube. It's the reason I started writing. It's the reason I went to film school. So I would say this show, impacted my life a lot. And that all kind of culminated last year when I got to meet Ashley Eckstein at MegaCon while I was in Florida for school. And like, I actually got to meet Ashley Eckstein, Matt Lanter, and James Arnold Taylor, which is Ahsoka, Anakin, and Obi-Wan, respectively. So that was huge for me. And that's like one of my, like, that'll always be one of the greatest moments of my life. Mm-hmm. Having kids, no. Getting married, no. Graduating, no. Meeting the Clone Wars voice actors, absolutely. Hopefully Hopefully, my
meme?
future wife doesn't come back and listen to this and be like, "Oh, so you think our marriage is a joke?" And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Listen,
whoa.
no, I
Wait,
finally got
wait,
married.
wait,
That's
wait.
not what I meant."
It's like that meme where it's like the guy wearing sweats and it's like me at my sister's wedding and then he's wearing a suit and it's like me meeting the Star Wars voice actors.
Me at the Tears of the Kingdom launch walks in a full suit and tie. It's great. But yeah, great show.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
So good.
All right. My number one.
I don't even know what to guess for your number one.
Really? It's so obvious.
Feel like you've done everything.
No.
It's not.
Duh. I saw that in your face. It immediately
It's
hit
not.
you as you were talking about it.
It's.
What is it? What is it? Say it. Say my name.
It's not 30 Rock, is it?
No.
Oh, okay.
30 Rock. No, 30
Okay.
Rock is good, but it's like not even in my top 5 favorite
What?
sitcoms.
What could it be?
Really?
It's not
so
only
easy.
Murders in the Building.
This is so
You're gonna
easy.
say it, and I'm gonna feel like an idiot.
Yes.
Is it a movie or a show?
It's a movie.
It's a movie.
Are you seriously?
Wait, hold on, I'm
It's so
trying to think.
easy.
Trying to think. Is it? If I get this wrong, you can just say it. Is it Fantastic Mr. Fox?
No.
Oh, okay.
Do
What
you
is it?
not know?
No, I genuinely
Really?
don't know.
I'm like actually bewildered. You're gonna feel so dumb, and I'm so
No, I am.
sorry. My number one piece here is Ratatouille. See? It's not that. It's so obvious. You mean the movie that it's been my personality for 2 years?
I genuinely don't know how I missed that. I feel like such a fake friend.
I mean, it was kind of like Clone Wars the last time we did this, where it was just kind of like, oh, that just didn't.
It's so obvious that it's
that
like,
it didn't come to mind. It's just like Ratatouille is just a way of life.
yeah.
So let me give my Ratatouille spiel. So a couple years ago, I wanted to do a project. I told Nick, I said, hey, I want to do the Ratatouille Hamilton crossover because I thought the name Rat-Tat Hamilton was hilarious. And he
Sure.
said, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And
That is also true.
He said, please do not do that. Here's the thing. I had never seen Hamilton. So I watched Hamilton and I fell in love with that. But I also rewatched Ratatouille and had just this awakening of like, this is one of the best movies ever made. Let me tell you, Ratatouille is my creative philosophy. Anyone can cook, but only the fearless can be great. So, this movie is what I grew up watching. I watched it in my granny's car all the time. But it was always like, oh yeah, it's Ratatouille. That's a good movie. And now I'm like, literally, I kid you not, 2 weeks ago, someone that I've never met in my life I felt someone touch my arm. I went, hello? And this person said, excuse me, are you Tiny Chef? And I was like, I guess I am. Because I worked on Rat-Tat Hamilton. There's a full music video on YouTube, and the song is out, Tiny Chef. And I think that creative process of making that, it actually changed my life. Like, making Rat-Tat Hamilton, that 4-minute music video, between the song and the music video and editing and everything, getting the song out and everything, that was an 8-month project. I spent 8 months getting that thing out. And I still, to this day, I don't think I've made anything better. Rat-Tat Hamilton might be my peak. And I've gotten to perform it live many times. And it goes so hard live, and I love it. And it's one of those, I showed it to my mom, because I had told her about all this stuff, but I didn't want to show her anything until it was done. And I got my whole family in the living room, and we watched it on the TV. And I look over, my mom is just crying. She's like, it's so good. And she said, do you know it's good? And I went, mm-hmm. And she said, he knows it's good. Which is so rare for me, because I never know what's good. anytime I make something, I'm always asking 8 different people, is this good?
Right.
But that was the first thing that I had fully confidently put my whole heart, like, this is great. This is good. Like, no one can tell me otherwise, and I love this. And so just Ratatouille, and then I got to go to Epcot in the Ratatouille ride, like the whole world, like I had an emotional experience. And so it's like, it's not just my favorite movie, it's not just my comfort movie, it's a great movie with an incredible story and a great message and like great looking food. But it also just kind of set me up for what I want to do. In like, it almost like all of these other shows that set me up for what I want to do, Ratatouille was the one that put a bow on it, of like, it is a combination of everything that I've talked about this entire episode. And so I got there, I made a song, I made a music video, I worked really hard on it, like it was funny, it was really high quality, and it was my magnum opus.
Right.
Tiny Chef by Jackson Glass, go listen. And so that's it, that's my Ratatouille spiel. And it's just an iconic movie. Tiny Chef, Tiny Chef. And there you go.
What is his name?
There you
Tiny
go.
Chef, Tiny Chef. So true.
There you go.
Wow.
Wow. This is a long episode.
And
I feel like, I mean, hour and a half. It's not that long. But I also am exhausted because I'm like, man, that was a testimony. Like, I was like
that was my testimony, actually.
This is what I should be telling like a counselor. Like,
well, listen, podcast episodes are therapy.
Based. That's
like,
so true. That is.
Think about it that way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. I hope you had a good time. I hope this encourages you to make your 3x3 because I had a great time. And it wasn't until I looked at these shows and thought about it that I realized how much media has impacted me over the years. So, highly recommend to understand yourself and understand other people. Like, I'll probably tell my friends, be like, make a 3x3 and tell me why. Like, this is such a great way to just grow and expand relationship with people.
No.
Oh, I thought you were trying to say something. Anyway, I mean, thank you for listening to this episode. Do you have anything else, or are we good?
No, I think we're good. Tune in this time next week.
We're
going to review the Super Mario movie. Woo! It's going to be great. Will it be better than Sonic the Hedgehog 2?
We'll see.
You'll have to tune in and find out.
We'll be with Genre Geeks next week for that
returning
review.
guest, Genre Geeks. What is it with us and getting them on for April video game movies?
I love it. I love it. I cannot wait. So, thank you for listening to this episode. Follow us on Instagram at The Nerdiest Podcast to get updates and original content. On YouTube at The Nerdiest Podcast to watch episodes there. If you're just, and more original content on the YouTube channel. We're kind of fleshing that out, and it's been really successful. So thank you if you've been watching that. Leave a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If we get some 5-star reviews and you leave a review on Apple Podcasts, we'll read it out on the show. We have yet to get one, so you could be the first. Leave 5 stars, leave a review, leave a comment, tell your friends, because word of mouth is the best way for us to grow. Hey, if you end up doing a 3x3, let us know. Like, send a DM, tag us on your story. Like, let us know, because I want to know everyone's 3x3s. This is such a fun exercise that I didn't expect to love as much as I do. So, thank you for listening to this episode. We'll see you next week. Until then, bye.